All right, all right, all right. It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. So you know what time that is. Yes, indeed. It's time for the Unstoppable Story Show with Terrance Leftridge on Facebook Live. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Come on in. You are now here for the great experience, the TLE experience, the Terrance Leftridge experience, live and in color on the Unstoppable Story Show, where we talk to ordinary people with unstoppable stories. And if you haven't already heard me say it, I'm your host, Terrance, the Unstoppable Coach Leftridge, with Unstoppable Coaching Services, where we help you create your vision. We help you implement your vision. But more importantly, we hold you accountable to making that vision a reality so that you can not only live the life you want to live, but live the unstoppable life that you were created to live. Yes, indeed. Welcome to another Tuesday night. Come on in, swipe and share, Let us know who's in the room. Give us a comment, give us a shout out. Let us know you're there. And hey, you never know, you might be able to be one of the comments that we show up on the screen this evening. I am always so honored, so humbled to have you guys here on a Tuesday night. I know you could be anywhere in the world doing anything else, but you decided that personal development wasn't important to you. You decided that motivation was important to you. You decided that information and entertainment was important to you. And more importantly, you decided that quality programming over the internet was something that you desired to have in your life. So thank you so much for spending a little bit of your time with the Unstoppable Stories Show. It's been a great week. It's been a great month, and it's been a great year. And hopefully it's been the same way for you. We have been talking all month to exciting, wonderful guests with unstoppable stories that have been shared with you guys to motivate you, whether you are a young adult or whether you are an older adult. We've had shows this month to let you know that no matter where you are on the spectrum, you can be unstoppable and you can be seen in 2018, and it's your time to shine. So as we wait around and get some other people to come on in, we definitely want you to come on in and leave us a comment. Angelina Perez is in. Hey, Angelina. She says, good evening, gentlemen. Let's grow. Thank you, Angelina, for joining us. Hey, and if you're out there, if you're joining us right now, go in, leave us a comment, tell us your name, tell us where you're from, and we will definitely acknowledge you throughout this show. Well, you know what? I am so excited. Because 2018 is already turning into an unstoppable year for me. You see, I know that it's my time to shine. And that's the mantra that I'm using for 2018. Last year, I said it was time to be seen in 2017. Now I'm saying it's time to shine in 2018. And you might be saying, what's the difference between those two? Well, the difference is in 2017, I was trying to be seen. I was trying to get exposure. I was trying to let you know that I existed. And for many of us, if you're anything like me, you probably have a small circle of influence, maybe your family, your friends, and maybe a few colleagues. But God is calling us to go to a greater stage in 2018. So it's no longer time to be seen. It's time to let my light and your light shine. Because what he gave us is too powerful for us to keep to ourselves. It's our assignment to let that gift out that he gave us into the world, because I believe that I believe that your gift and even your gift is going to make a difference. Now, maybe it may only make a difference in one person's life, but it may make the difference in 1 million people's lives. I don't know. Maybe the one person whose life is changed by your gift is connected to 8 million people. And they've just been waiting on you to share your gift with them so that they could then share that gift with the rest of the world. Wouldn't that be phenomenal to know that your gift had that type of ripple effect on somebody? Yeah. But in order for us to do that, we're going to have to learn how to move from our past into our purpose. Yes, we've got to move from all the challenges, all the trials, all the tribulations that we experienced in 2017, and we've got to start walking and talking our purpose in 2018. It's your time to shine. It's my time to shine. And that's why I am so excited about the project that is going to be happening in the spring. See what they're all about. So I'm excited about that. And if you guys could see that book title, let me know you could see it. Let me know what you think about it. Hey, Patrice Jackson, thanks for joining. Hey, Ray Sanchez, Ray and Laura from the Rio Grande Valley. RGV is in the house. Saucony Prince from Alabama is in the house. Tina Hobson, she was our guest last week on the Unstoppable Story Show. Thank you, Queen, for showing up and hanging out with us. I appreciate you all for taking your time to hang out with us on the Unstoppable Story Show. Well, we've got another powerful guest for you tonight. This man, I have been trying to get on the show now for the last 3 months. Ever since we got a chance to hang fabulous time down there in the Rio Grande Valley. And in case you guys then, I said that I needed to have this man on my show. And so I am so honored to have him on the show. And as we work through getting some of these things, you know, it's one thing, I tell you, live internet is always something, you know, and I tell you each and every week, the devil is trying to get busy on this show, but we are not going to let that happen. We are going to stay steadfast. We're going to stay unmovable, and we're going to stay unstoppable as we bring in our guest right now. He is a preacher, he is a teacher, and he is a leader. That's how I like to think of my man, Milton Louis Gonzalez. He's been an educator for 24 years. He has led educational institutions in both Mexico and the United States, and he is currently the executive director at a Christian academy located in Southern Texas. He has a strong background in the multiple intelligence theory, and he's Harvard University certified, y'all, in differentiated learning. But he's more than that. He's got a master's of art in human services counseling, and he's got his life coaching certification from Liberty University. Yes, this man is a Renaissance man. He can do it all. He can motivate you. He can counsel you. He can teach you, and he can put it all together to help you move from your past into your purpose so that you too can live the unstoppable life. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Mr. Milton Gonzalez. Milton, are you on the show?
Hey, Terrance, I am, and I am actually very excited to be here tonight. And it has been maybe more than 3 months that we've been trying to connect. So we finally made it. Praise God.
Yes. Yes, indeed. You know what? Thank you so much for being here on the Unstoppable Story Show. You know, I love how we had the opportunity to connect last year in the RGV, not just one time, but twice on stages with Les Brown and some other phenomenal speakers, how we were able to change some lives in the Rio Grande Valley, how we were able to transform some lives in the Rio Grande Valley. And I dare say that we probably saved some lives in the Rio Grande Valley. Would you agree with that statement?
I would totally agree with that statement. Yes.
So we got a chance to get together, and I was just blown away by your presentation. And I was like, you know what? My audience here in the Chicagoland area and across the country, really across the world with the internet and YouTube and replays, they just needed to get a chance to see who Milton Gonzalez was. So let's start off with the first question, and then you can introduce yourself a little bit better than the words that I have on this page probably can. So Milton, introduce yourself and then answer the question that I have every guest answer, and that is, what does it mean to you to be unstoppable?
All right. Well, as you said, I am currently in South Texas, deep South Texas, meaning that I am about 10-minute drive away from the border with Mexico. Originally born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, moved to Houston when I was a baby and lived there until I was 12. Right after that, my parents uprooted us and we moved into Monterrey, Mexico, which is one of the bigger industrialized cities in Mexico. Lived there all the way through 29 years of age. Then moved back to the U.S., and that was back in 2001. And I've been here ever since, here in South Texas. I do have a background in psychology. I've always been interested in the mindset and the behaviors of individuals and why they react a certain way. So I'm an observer of people, and I've been doing this since I was a kid. My son says that's weird. He says that's being a stalker, but I'm not a stalker. Watch people and observe them and try to connect some dots and figure out why they behave certain ways and help them overcome, whether it is a fear, whether it's a stronghold, whatever it may be. At 29 years of age, I came to Christ. I came to know him as Lord and Savior. And at 31 years of age, I became an ordained minister. So I've been pastoring. I don't hold a pastoral position within a church, but I do preach at different churches. I do premarital counseling, pastoral counseling, and in which we incorporate theology, psychology, and spirituality all together to help the individual get from point A to point B. And I like to emphasize that there is a difference between counseling and coaching, because I do both, and my master's is actually in both. It's executive life coaching and counseling. And counseling, I tell the individual or the couple what exactly it is that they have to do. And whether it's through the scriptures or through psychology, through spirituality. And in coaching, I don't tell people what they need to do. In coaching, I ask them the right questions to help them get from point A to point B, because they already know the answer. they already have the answer in their subconscious mind, and it's just a matter of bringing it from the subconscious to the conscious, helping them get from point A to point B. So that is in a nutshell what I do. I have an older son, he's 26. I have a younger son, he's 5 years old. And then I have two grandchildren, Ezra and Emery, and they're almost 3 and 7 months old.
I love it. And so we're talking to Milton Louis Gonzalez on the Unstoppable Stories Show with Terrance Leftridge. Get your notepad, get your writing utensils, because he's going to get you with some great information this evening, as well as entertainment, so that you can move through the rest of your week living the unstoppable life. As always, if you've got some questions or if you got some comments, feel free to put it in the comments section, and we will definitely try to get you on the screen, get your question on there for Milton. Milton and I, we're going to be chopping it up tonight. We're 2 parts, because Milton is the master in emotional intelligence, and as we said, differentiated learning. So he knows a lot about mindset. So as we are in the middle of January of 2018, we know that a lot of you guys had those resolutions that you did on December 15th, or you may have tweaked on December 25th, or you may have just started on December 31st. Or maybe some of you didn't start that resolution until January 1st, 2nd, maybe even yesterday. And already you may have fallen off the wagon on the goal towards receiving those resolutions. And Milton and I both know that it all begins in the mind. So we want to spend a little bit of time talking about mindset, and then we'll switch gears in the second half of the show, talking about some events that Milton has happening down in the RGV as well as all across the country. But Milton, let's talk about mindset. Let's talk about what I just mentioned for the listener, for the viewer who's watching right now, and they started off 2018 with all gas, no brakes towards this new you, towards these new year resolutions, toward these things that they were going to get done in 2018. And now we're January 23rd, and maybe it's not looking so good. Well,
right.
What do you say about them and that whole mindset thing?
Sure. Well, let me tell you. Let me go back a little bit, even to Old Testament times. And the prophet Hosea was at one point in his life, he was complaining, and he was expecting a promise, and it wasn't happening, and he was complaining to God. And then God says to him, he gives him an important mandate. He says, write the vision on a tablet, plain and clear for everyone to see and read. And then he goes on to say, though the vision, meaning the promise, meaning the goal, meaning whatever the resolution is, though the vision may linger, may tarry, may take some time, expect it, because surely it will come to pass. So when I ask a crowd of people, how many of you have New Year's resolution? Of course, the vast majority raise their hand, but then the next question is, how many of you actually took the time to write it down on a piece of paper? And you will see all hands go down, and only perhaps 10 or 15% of those hands remain up. So then I go on to tell them, and this is statistics, is that 75% of all people will fail at their New Year's resolution simply because they did not write it down on a piece of paper and they did not have a strategy. So, and those who raised their hand, 75% of those who did write it down, who do have a structure and a plan, 75% will succeed. They will see that promise come to fruition. So it is important to have a structure, a plan, and we use the SMART acronym. And the SMART acronym is an easy way to set your goals. And I don't necessarily push a New Year's resolution. I don't push an annual goal, but I just say you have to set goals on a day-to-day basis and make sure that today you're better off than you were yesterday. So the acronym that we use is SMART. Now, if you've got a tablet there, if you've got something to write on, I highly encourage the viewers to write this down. It's very simple. SMART, and it stands for specific, meaning that your goal, your resolution, whatever it is, whatever the vision is, has to be specific. The M stands for measurable. The A is attainable. are realistic and very important, time bound. You have to have a timeline. You have to be specific. A great example is someone who comes and says, I want to lose weight. Well, that's a great goal, but let's narrow that down. What exactly do you want to accomplish? Well, I want to lose weight. Okay, so how much weight would you like to lose? Well, I would like to lose 20 pounds. Where are you at right now? Well, I'm at 190. Okay, so you want to be at 170. Okay, that's really good. So we narrow that down. Now let's set a time to that. Is it realistic? Yes. You're not going to lose it by tomorrow. That's not realistic. Realistic is a few months. Let's put it on a timeline. So we draw out a plan, we put them on a timeline, and then we hold them accountable. And that is a better way of accomplishing that goal.
I love it. And you know what? I talked about that SMART goals in my coaching practice for years now, and it never gets old. It's always good to have that refresher. So for you guys who may have missed it when he said it the first time, those SMART goals, again, is specific, measurable, accountable, relatable, and time-oriented. And you know what, depending on who you may be talking to, one of those acronyms seems to be more of an issue for them than somebody else. Somebody else, you may have found, Milton, in your practice has an issue with time management. Else may have an issue with getting specific in the goal, like you said in the weight loss example. What is it about the mind and the mindset that may cause them to tarry or not be so focused when it comes to being specific, or when it comes to the time management part of the SMART goals?
Sure. So we all know that there is power. Obviously, there are power in words, power in our tongue, whatever we say, whatever we declare. And when we talk about the subconscious mind, we talk about a mental programming. So the subconscious mind has been programmed throughout years. From the moment that we are birthed, the moment that we are born, we start the programming process, and people program certain beliefs, which we call paradigms. So those are the paradigms that hold us back, that keep us from moving forward, that keep us from accomplishing that one thing. And we need to break free from those strongholds, from those mindsets, from those paradigms. So I use a basic example. I tell people, fill in the blank. For instance, knowledge is, and most people say power. And I ask them, curiosity killed?
The cat.
Ignorance is?
Bliss.
Okay, so these are paradigms. So they're all lies. So curiosity didn't kill the cat. Stupidity killed the cat. Ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is poverty and death. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. But see, we have grown up to believe these things. And I've always said, the woman never thought that, a particular woman never thought she was ugly until she was told 17 times that she was ugly. Then she believed it. So these are the things that hold us back. When someone says, well, you're never going to accomplish that one thing, you're never going to make it. And if we believe it, it becomes, we become prophecy. We become prophets over our own lives. It becomes prophetic. So those are the things that hold us back.
And I so agree. And, scripture tells us that as a man thinketh, or as we're in 2018, as a person thinketh, so is he. And it's very key to what you just said earlier. If you think that you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you think you're not going to achieve those goals, then you're not going to achieve them. But if you think you are going to achieve them, if you think that you can really get specific around the goal, and then you think that you have what it takes to reach that goal, then statistics show that you will do it, as long as you follow the blueprint that you talked about earlier. But again, that mindset is a tricky thing, and you talk a lot about mindset. So over the next couple of minutes, how can we help the viewers that may have found themselves struggling to reach the goals already in 2018? What kind of tips can you give them to get back on track and so that they can continue to move forward in their goals for 2018?
Right. So one of the most important things that needs to be done is identifying self-limiting beliefs. That's number one, is to identify the self-limiting belief. It's that one thing, that one thought, that one word, that one statement that is repeated over and over in our minds. Because keep in mind that we have the greatest conversations with self, no one else. So we're constantly thinking about that one thing over and over and over again. So number one is identifying self-limiting beliefs. Number two is identifying the emotion that it evokes within our hearts and within our minds. Now, keep in mind that the Bible says, above all things, guard your heart, because it controls the destiny of your life, or from it flows life. So it guides your life. So you have to watch those things. So number one, identify self-limiting belief. Number two, identify the emotion it evokes. And number three, adopt a power statement that will replace that self-limiting belief. And it can be as simple as one of the speakers that I've listened to before is E.T. And E.T. says, I can, I will, I must. And I love that. That's a very simple power statement. It empowers you, whatever it is. I can succeed, I will succeed, I must succeed. John Maxwell says, if you're having a hard time getting up in the morning to exercise, to do a devotional, to read, to do whatever, he says, I have learned over the past 35, 40 years that I'm to tell myself 50 times, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. The moment I open my eyes, or even before I open my eyes, I wake up, I tell myself 50 times. And guess what? I do it right away. If you tell yourself 50 times, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. So adopt a power statement. Do away with self-limiting beliefs. Start to develop a new identity, because once you change your beliefs, your behavior will be altered and you will produce a different outcome.
Excellent, excellent. We're talking to Milton Louis Gonzalez. He is with us here on the Unstoppable Stories show with Terrance Leftridge. Thank you guys for viewing in. Come on and continue with those comments. Shout out to Nikki Hammer. Nikki Hammer says, hey, good evening, gentlemen, and God bless you. Thank God for sharing your wonderful advice tonight. Solandia Hammond, you remember her, Milton Sue Ham, from May of last year. She says, I think, therefore I am. Shout out to Sharon Johnson Leftridge, my beautiful wife, for joining us on the broadcast. Leroy McKenzie's watching. Laura Boyer Sanchez is watching. Ann Zacconi Prince, Angelina Perez, Tina Hobson. So come on, you guys, continue to comment, ask questions as we continue to talk about mindset and how you can keep moving forward in 2018 on reaching those goals. You know, you talked about E.T. and you talked about his powerful statements, and you talked about John Maxwell repeating the same statement over and over again 50 times if you find yourself struggling with that. You know, I think my mantra, my whole brand now came out of that same desire to find something that was going to give me a 180-degree turn from where I was, Milton, because at that time I was all messed up. I was tore up from the floor up. I didn't know which way was up. I didn't know what to do, and I had spoke to God, and I Mic check, mic check. Can you hear me, Milton?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. See, I told you guys that no matter what happens, the devil is always busy. When we're talking about something that's going to help people change their lives, the devil is always going to try to do something to stop that. But we are back. We are live and we are unstoppable. So hopefully you guys can hear me now. If you guys can hear me, go ahead and put in the comments that you can hear me. Milton, you can hear me loud and clear, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know what the last thing you heard, but let me just ask you the question. I was talking about how I use the mantra, I am unstoppable now, similar to what you were hearing with E.T. and similar to what John Maxwell says do 50 times a day, because I wanted to change my situation. And because I was able to change my situation with that one phrase, I am unstoppable, now I'm able to share that same message and show other people how they can be unstoppable too. But first, I had to change my mind. Is that similar? Is that a similar story in your world on how you became so involved with mindset?
I would say so. I come from a very positive environment. Both my parents are great encouragers, and negativity was hardly ever in the atmosphere. My parents are 75, and I get a text message at least twice a day with words of empowerment. So it was actually seeing the suffering around me not within the home, but outside the home, and the divorce rates climbing, and children being diagnosed left and right with ADD and ADHD that were not ADD or ADHD. They were suffering from emotional pain. Those are some of the things that caused me to dive deeper into the study of psychology and mastering in counseling, so that I could combine all three, as I mentioned, theology, spirituality, and psychology, to help them overcome these obstacles without necessarily the need of medication. Some of them, of course, might need it, but the majority, I would say 75%, don't. So that's what really sparked my attention in wanting to add value to other people through this kind of help.
And that's good to know. Now, you in your line of work, you work with at your leadership school, you work with anywhere from young kids all the way up to high school students. And then in your pastoral counseling and your coaching, you work with adults, young adults, old adults. Do you see any difference in how they react to their mindset?
Well, obviously, the older the individual, the more strongholds, the more paradigms. I've met 60-year-olds who are still searching for their purpose in life. And yet I have met 16-year-olds who already know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what it is exactly that they've been called to do. So it all is, it really depends a lot on their background. It depends on their household. It depends on parenting. I've been able to trace most of the issues that individuals suffer from today as adults. I've been able to trace them back to their early childhood, their early stages in childhood, and where everything just broke and set off this cycle in their lives. So it really depends a lot on environment more than anything.
That whole nature versus nurture conversation, that's what it sounds like you're saying. And that has very much to do with it as well. I see in my coaching practice and in working with the senior population that I work with is that there's a combination. There's a combination of where they grew up, what type of influences they had in their life, and then when or if they're able to form their own belief system. Many times we go through our life based upon somebody else's belief system. We never take the time to formulate our own. So everything we do or everything we say or everything we think is based upon what somebody else put inside of us, as opposed to what we've been able to come up with ourselves. So how do you speak to that person? How do you speak to that person that may, for lack of a better word, may still be walking around in a lost identity?
Right. I want to capitalize on something that you just said right now. And I love what Jim Rohn said years ago. Of course, he's passed away, but a man of great wisdom and leadership and mindset. Jim Rohn said that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. We become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And a lot of people talk about wanting to soar like eagles, but yet they hang around turkeys and they become turkeys. If you spend time with 9 losers, eventually you'll be the 10th one. It's that simple.
Yes.
So really, some people are willing to change. There has to be a certain degree of teachability in the individual and an openness and a realization that there is an issue that is holding them back, but they need to have a desire to change. It's like I've always said, God is not looking for perfection. God is only in search of disposition. So there has to be a disposition within the individual to say, I realize that I have an issue. I am not able to get to point B, or all my relationships are messed up. Help me find where the brokenness is so that we can rebuild. And but there has to be a teachable heart in order to accomplish that.
I so wholeheartedly agree. As we are talking to Milton Louis Gonzalez on the Unstoppable Story Show with Terrance Leftridge, talking about mindset, and we're going to transition over to a specific mindset as we go into the next segment of the show, because we are moving out of January and moving into February. And for most people in the world, that is the month of love, Valentine's Day, hearts and candy and flowers and chocolate and all that other stuff. And it has a whole different mindset when we talk about language, or when we talk about, more specifically, love language. And interestingly, Milton, you not only talk about mindset, you talk about the language of love. You're married, I'm married. Part of your unstoppable story had you not finding love once, but losing love and then being blessed to find love again. So if you don't mind, share a little bit of that unstoppable story, and then let's segue into the 5 love languages that you're going to be talking to Texas about next month.
Absolutely. Well, I would encourage every one of the viewers to go and watch the TED Talk, You Are What You Think. That was broadcast in 2015. But I just want to share the ending portion of my story, my unstoppable story. And basically, I came home one day, and my wife of 34 years of age at the time, we had been married for 17 years. She had been going through about 15 years worth of treatment because she suffered from Hodgkin's lymphoma. We had a 15-year-old son at the time, and we had raised 14 foster kids. At the time, we had 4 living with us. And when I came home, she told me, she says, Milton, I want you to know that today is the day. And I looked at her, and I knew she had just come back from the doctor. She had had a blood transfusion and was wearing a morphine patch. So I thought to myself, she's not thinking straight. And I had to take care of business, meaning my kids. And they were all needing me as I got back from work. They wanted help with homework. I needed to fix dinner and get things ready. This was back in 2007. And she kept on saying, I need to talk to you because today is the day. And she had a great big smile. And the day went by, we had dinner, we put the kids to bed, we said goodnight, we prayed with them. And then as we went into the bedroom, she looked at me and I said, okay, now you can tell me, what is this that you wanted to talk to me about? And she said to me, well, now I need you to wait because I've got some things to do. So she went and got some clothes ready, some jewelry ready, and she fixed her hair and her nails. She did certain things that were uncommon for her to be doing at that time of night. And then she came over at about 10:45, close to 11, and she sat on the bed. She called me over, and she looked at me, and she says, I need to talk to you. She says, today is the day, she says, that all my pain ends and I meet with my Creator. And I said, no, the morphine patch has truly gotten to your head. I'm sure you're not thinking straight. It's time for you to go to bed. She says, no, you need to listen. I have had visions of heaven, and I know that today is the day. I've already said goodbye to everyone, but I want to charge you with some things. She says, number one is if you're going to live life, live it on purpose, not by accident, not by coincidence. Number two, live to add value to others. Number three, live life in such a way that when you die, the preacher doesn't have to lie about you. And then she said, and number five, you know, she says, or 4 or 5, she says, I want you to know that I prayed to God that he would bless you with a wife that will love you as you have loved me. And I thought, you know, the morphine had gotten to her head. We went to bed. We prayed together. And at 5:30 in the morning, when I got up and I turned over to say good morning to her, she didn't reply. Well, she had passed away at about 3 in the morning. And that day was February 27, 2007. That was the day that my wife went on to be with the Lord. That was the day that everything changed. And it was about a year after that that I would meet that blessing that she prayed for. And I was at church saying goodbye to the church members, and a visitor to the church happened to come say hi. And when I saw her, I said, this is the one that she prayed for. And that is my current wife. And so that is kind of my unstoppable story. We have a 5-year-old. That's why I have a 26-year-old and a 5-year-old son. And I'm truly blessed. My wife, actually, shout out to my wife, Elena, who's watching from home. And so I just want you to know that that is my unstoppable story. And that is part of what has made me who I am. And people have asked me, Terrance, and by the way, I want to say this. When you introduced most of the speakers here in the Rio Grande Valley, every one of them had a nickname, a fancy nickname, like a stage name. But I was the only one that was just Milton. And you baptized me, man. I want you to know this, and I'll never forget. I share with my friends when I went up there. I said, I don't have a nickname, and you called me Milton the Mind Master. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Loved it. So let me just tell you that is my unstoppable story, and that's what really has helped me become who I am. And so when people say, I want to do what you do, and I ask them, what do I do? Well, you motivate, you teach, you help, you encourage. Then my question is, if you want to do that, are you willing to walk in my shoes? Are you willing to go through what I've been through? Because you don't get this in a university. You get this through life. And you get it through overcoming those obstacles. And that's how you create your story. And let me just say this. You can't have a testimony if you haven't been through a test. You can't have a mess if you haven't been through a mess. That's me.
You know what? I can't stand you, Milton, because that's exactly what I was about to say. You stole my thunder, but that's all right. You're my guest on the show. We're talking to the powerful, the wonderful, the mind master himself, Milton Louis Gonzalez, on the Unstoppable Story Show. And you guys, you're commenting, and thank you so much for engaging us tonight, commenting. Shamir Mallard said that was a powerful testimony. Author Maria Vega says, you can't have a testimony if you haven't been through a test. Amen, sister. Yes, indeed. So in that unstoppable story where you had love, lost love, and then was blessed to find love again, you've had two opportunities, two very special opportunities to practice the 5 languages of love. Now, not many of us, Milton, get that opportunity. Many men get that one great love story, and some maybe not so great, and we don't always get to practice those love languages. So I'm really excited to have you on to talk briefly about that. I know you're about to blow them away in Texas next month, so we're only going to give them a sneak peek of what you're going to share with them. But let's talk about the 5 love languages in general, and then how they can, when you add the mindset piece in, can lead to a powerful, fulfilling, engaging relationship with the one you love.
Absolutely. Well, let me tell you that, number one, love is unselfish. Love is selfless. So when you love unconditionally, actually the scripture calls men to love their spouses or wives with an unconditional love. But it never says to the woman to love the husbands unconditionally. And I don't think that's fair, but God knows what it is that man needs. And I always ask in marital counseling, I ask him, what does your wife need from you? And the man will hesitate, and then he'll go on to say, well, I don't know, gifts. And I say, no, actually what she needs is unconditional love and security, unconditional love. And I ask her, what exactly does your husband need? And what do you think they say, Terrance?
Food and sex.
Exactly, you're right. But not in that order. What they say is sex and food. But what I tell them is, no, you're wrong. It is not sex. It is not food, although that is important. What is most important is respect. So women need unconditional love. Men need respect. They need to know that they are respected and honored by their spouses. So let me go into the 5 love languages. Knowing your spouse's language, not only your spouse's language, but your coworker's language, your children's language, the people that you are around. If you have a desire to connect with them, if you have a desire to establish a rapport, then you have to know their language. If you don't, it's almost like going to China and not speaking Chinese. It's going to be really hard to communicate and to connect. So Gary Chapman developed the 5 love languages, and it's an amazing book. It's an easy read, and there's actually a test that you can take to come to know what your love language is, what your strongest one is. But the love languages are words of affirmation. We have physical touch, gifts, acts of service, and quality time. Those are the 5. So what happens is the husband goes away on a trip, and he's coming back, and he's at the airport, and he remembers to get something for his wife. So he goes to one of those stores and picks up, some cheesy gift and brings it to the wife, thinking that that is going to show her that he missed her and that he loves her. But her love language is not gifts. So then she receives it. She says, thank you, but that's not what she needs. Perhaps her love language is words of affirmation, and all she needed to hear from her husband was, sweetheart, I truly missed you. I am so glad that we're together again. That's all she needed to hear. So we need to understand the language that we speak. And in order to do that, we have to become acute listeners and keen observers. We have to observe and listen at all times. And to do that, we have to shut up. We have to stop talking, and we have to watch, and we have to listen. But in the process, Terrance, of teaching the love languages, we also teach the behavioral traits according to the DISC test. So we find out what their DISC is, what their language is, and then I use something called the pyramid. And it's not Maslow's pyramid of human needs, it's Milton's pyramid of priorities. So we set up a pyramid, and we put everything in their life into priorities, and then we can see if their life is in order or out of order. And if it's out of order, it's out of whack, and if it's out of whack, it won't work. So we've got to bring everything into proper alignment so that they can reconnect with their spouses, with their loved ones, with their significant other. There has to be, I want to end with this. In some of you watching right now may be going through divorce, may be going through separation, may be going through struggles, and you're probably asking yourself, is there any hope? Well, there is hope, but according to Dr. Gottman, who is an expert in relationships, Dr. Gottman says that there has to be 2 things in the relationship. There have to be 2 things that exist in the relationship in order for it to be restored, and that is, there has to be a certain level of admiration, and there has to be a certain level of friendship. There has to be at least a little bit. And if that's still evident in their lives, then restoration is possible.
And those are all good points. All good points from Milton Louis Gonzalez talking to us about the 5 languages of love. He's going to be talking about this at his conference in Harlingen, Texas on February 16th. So if you are in the Rio Grande Valley and in Harlingen or the nearby cities, you definitely want to connect with Milton Gonzalez to be in the room as a part of that more in-depth conversation than we can have tonight about the 5 languages of love. But I love how you added the extra disc training into it, because here we go. In many relationships where there is a disconnect, it's because those alignments have gotten out of alignment. So bringing those two together, understanding your partner's language, not just your own language, and then understanding how you can bring those 2 languages together so that you can have not only a good conversation, but a good relationship is key. And I know, just speaking for men, because that's what I am, so I can only represent that population. Many times Milton, we're guilty of getting it twisted. We tend to use the one mouth more than we use the 2 ears. And that's some of the reasons why our relationships are the way they are. Do you see that common in some of the coaching and the pastoral counseling, marital counseling that you do as well?
Right. Well, what I see is common in marital counseling, when they come in and they're at each other's throats, is really that he will see her flaws and her failures, and she will see his flaws and his failures. And I draw a platform of a sort, like a foundation with 2 pillars. And I explain that each one of those pillars represents each one of them. And they are both full of cracks. And what they're doing is staring at each other's cracks. They're staring at each other's cracks, and they are critical of them, rather than focusing on self. Look, and I say this from a pastoral counseling perspective. I tell them that there has to be at least one Jesus in the relationship for it to work. You
Right.
can't have 2. You can't have 2 Judases. You know, there has to be one Jesus who is willing to love unconditionally, who's willing to extend mercy and compassion and true unconditional love.
Yeah. There's got to be a point where you got to ask yourself that proverbial question: do you want to be right, or do you want to be in relationship? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be married? Do you want to be right, or and be alone, or do you want to work it out and right. Stay together? So I love it. I love it. We're not going to go too deep into this, because, again, you're going to be sharing this in-depth conversation with your audience down there in the Rio Grande Valley on February 16th. So tell them a little bit more about what you're actually going to be doing on the 16th, Milton.
So what we're going to accomplish is we're inviting individuals and, of course, couples. It's the week of Valentine's Day. And so it is a time when people, it's almost like Christmas time. You know, Christmas time, that's when people remember the birth of Christ. Valentine's week, that's when people remember that they need to love. Corinthians 13 is the chapter of love.
Yes,
and when all else fails, love never fails.
Never fails. Love is patient. Love is kind. All those verses 1 through 13 in that chapter, phenomenal. And at some point in your life, you've either been to a wedding or you've been part of a wedding where 1 Corinthians 13 was read or sang in some shape, form, or fashion. And they touched on all the love languages. And Milton is just so amazing, but yet so simple to understand what we can find and what kind of relationships we can have when we just step back and just get in tune with the other person.
That's right.
And if we segue back to the beginning of the show, if we first get in tune with our own mind, find out our own values, get our own goals set, then we can attract those people to our lives that have that common denominator, those people who can help us, walk alongside us to help us reach our goals, and somebody that we can walk alongside and help them reach their goals, because now we have brought it together. We've brought our love languages together, and we found somebody that we can be in alignment with.
That's right. Can I just interject something there, Terrance?
Sure.
So referencing what the question was, how does someone change, their mindset? And in connecting with people, you've got to change your mindset. You have to realize that it's not all about you. Actually, if you want to connect with people, it's all about others. And John Maxwell says, John Maxwell says this, and I love it. He's my mentor. John says that connecting increases your influence. So when you're able to connect with people, now some people are experts at it. Some people struggle, but it can be learned. It can be practiced. But I want to focus on just one thing, is that when it comes to changing gears, changing the mindset, I've always focused on Romans 12:2. Now, Romans 12:2 says, Paul is speaking to the Romans, and he tells the Romans, he says, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may test and approve God's perfect, pleasing, and good will for your life. So be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's where the metamorphosis starts. It has nothing to do with the external. It has nothing to do with the atmosphere. It has all to do with what is up here.
I got it. I love it. We're talking to Milton Louis Gonzalez in the last couple of minutes of the Unstoppable Story Show with Terrance Leftridge. Thank you so much, Milton, for coming on the show. I told you I was going to get you on the show come hell or high water, and I'm so glad that, we didn't do it in 2017, but it's never too late. So I'm glad that you were able to be here to bring us at the beginning of 2018, helping us learn that we can shine in 2018, but first, it's got to begin in the mind. And if we use our mind in 2018, then we're also going to increase our love languages, and we're going to be able to help others along the way. So I love how you can combine both of those things together, wrap it all up, put it nice, neat in a bow, and serve the people that you serve on a daily basis. So thank you, my brother, for that. Tell them again how they can be a part of your event on February 16th.
Well, they can go to my Facebook page, which is Milton Life Coach, or my Instagram, and you'll find the link there. So just access it. And I know that you've already shared it too, Terrance. You've already shared it as well on your page. But all they have to do is click on the link, sign up, and it's actually very affordable. It's $30 a person, and it's close to a 6-hour conference, lunch included. It's going to be in Harlingen. It's only open to 100 individuals. So if you're in the Valley and you would like to be a part of that, I highly encourage you. A good friend of mine and a great catalyst for transformation, Albert Robledo. He has attended some of the other conferences with Les Brown.
Yes.
Albert is a catalyst, and Albert is actually the one who's hosting it. He's putting all this together. He's pouring out time and money to get this, to make this happen. So I would just encourage you, click on the link and sign up. It's easy. 100 spots, they're going to fill up right away.
Yeah, where else can you get this type of information plus get fed? You're getting fed physically, spiritually, and mentally. So you can't beat that with a stick. And you know what? I love anything that's happening down in the RGV. RGV is my family, my second family. I love you guys. You guys have a spirit that is contagious. You have a yearning for information. You believe in personal development. So I just know that the place is going to be overcrowded with their pens and their papers and their desires to learn the 5 languages of love. So, and I know you are the man to teach it. So thank you again, Milton, for sharing some time with us on the Unstoppable Story Show and for what you're going to do for the people in the RGV on February 16th. So the last word is yours. How do you want to close out? What do you want to leave our audience with as they go into the rest of their Unstoppable week?
Well, I want to leave with 2 things, and I'm gonna go back to what you started out by saying. You said that your mantra for this year, you said it's time to shine in 2018. Did you not say that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I want to add 2 things. 2 things. There is a scripture in Isaiah that says that I love, and it's also been one of my mantras, and it goes on to say this. Arise and shine, for the glory of the Lord is upon you. See that darkness covers the earth, but upon you his glory shines. So I love that, because basically what it's saying is no matter what's going on around you, his glory, which is his greatness, his mercy, his compassion, his majesty, his love is upon you. So the word shine is right there. Arise and shine. And then Jesus went on to say in one of the Gospels, he says, and therefore let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and glorify God in heaven. That's my final word. And just like Les Brown says, and I'm sticking to it.
Milton Louis Gonzalez letting his light shine on the Unstoppable Story Show with Terrance Leftridge. I told you guys this was going to be another great show. I hope you have written down. I hope you took some copious notes. But hey, if you didn't, just go back and listen to the replay that's going to come up in just a few minutes. Milton Louis Gonzalez, you can find him on Facebook, facebook.com/Milton Life Coach. You can get all the information about his event on February 16th in Harlingen, Texas. The 5 languages of love. Don't meet him there. Beat them there. Thank you so much, my brother. I can't wait to see you again this year. Hopefully I can see you here in Chicago with my event, but we're definitely going to see each other again this year so that we can let our light shine together. Amen.
Amen, brother. I appreciate you, man. Love you.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was Milton Louis Gonzalez. And if you guys are looking at the screen, you can see my event that I am so proud about. I mentioned to you earlier in the broadcast. It is the You Are Unstoppable, Moving from Past to Purpose book launch. It's happening May 19th here in Chicago, Illinois. May 19th from 1 to 5 p.m. We are going to have a book launch / luncheon where you're going to meet not only me, but 6 other phenomenal authors that's going to tell their unstoppable story, just like Milton did, of how they've been able to move from their past into their purpose. And now they're ready to let their little light, their big light, shine in 2018. They are ready to follow what they say in Isaiah. They are ready to follow what Jesus said in the New Testament. They are ready to let the world know that the glory of God has shined upon them. And they are ready to let out their gifts so that they can help you know that if they made it, you can make it too. It all begins in the mind, y'all. And they have made up their mind They have a made up mind that 2018 is their year to bless somebody or to bless a lot of somebody's. And I've made up my mind that it's my time to shine my light so that you guys can see how unstoppable you can be too. So I hope wherever you are within the sound of my voice and wherever you can see me on video, that you will make plans to be in the Chicagoland area on May 19th. And each and every week on the Unstoppable Story Show, as we give out more details, we're going to get you ready so that you too can come be a part of this fabulous event here with Unstoppable Stories. Hey, make up your mind right now. Set your SMART goals. Set those specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-oriented goals now. And don't give up. Yeah, it's the 23rd, and maybe the first 23 days of the year, the goals didn't work out the way you wanted them to. Don't give up. It's never too late. The time is still right for you to reach your goals and live the unstoppable life in 2018. But make up your mind and decide right now that it's going to be your time to shine. Well, that's our time here on the Unstoppable Story Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, wherever you are in the world today, don't just make it a great week, make it an unstoppable week. Take care.